Welcome to the chaos sector. We return to the Matrix. We're not going to waste any time getting into this episode. Some felt that we had nothing to present. Why are we even addressing these individuals? They seem to be distractions. But we will use one person in particular. I think it serves a great example. Now, right after the last episode, we posted a link to the Idaho Statesman video displaying the security cam footage. It's timestamped and everything, so you can get right to moment of truth. Quote, chaos has been hacked. Hold on, what is it with these people? Like that's their favorite buzzword or something. Oh, they've been hacked. Oh, this channel has been hacked. Oh, so this is how the mob group handles an opposing view. Oh, if you don't agree with them anymore, oh, you've been hacked. That lingo in itself is, get this, hackish. You can't address the points made. So, everything has been hacked. Or they'll say, oh, they've been paid off. And this is how the chaos knows that these individuals aren't genuine subs. Because if they were, they'd know this channel is not popular for a reason. Yes, these subs, they're here because of the Idaho murder investigation, but none of those individuals cared to even check out any of the previous content, which, to be honest, is more important for their individual enlightenment. You've gotten me started, so prepare to get called out. Quote, we all have heard Xana. What we haven't seen or heard is Kohberger. What, you claiming Kohberger is guilty and doing a complete 180, is discrediting the entire body of work you're credited since the atrocity at 1122 King Road happened? You need to backtrack and explain every single point in every single video you've made since the crime occurred. This isn't the way to get behind a different perspective. Unquote. Wow, the nerve of this person, hey? Telling the chaos what they need to do? Oh, we need to backtrack and explain every single point in every video we've made since the crime occurred, and this isn't the way to get behind a different perspective? Well, if you actually remembered some of our earlier episodes, we had a sub-theory of Kohberger being hired as a hitman. Oh, but you wouldn't remember that. Oh, okay. Let's put this in perspective for Medusa. Here's the investigative progression. The very first video, which was January 12th of 2023, about 2 months after the murders, we questioned the lone killer narrative. From there, it progressed to believing Kohberger had been framed. As time progressed, though, we also pointed out that there was also a possibility that it was a psychological operation. And now, well, it seems Kohberger was guilty of murdering those housemates. You individuals never reacted this way in the chaos, presenting the possibility that it was a psychological operation, which is considered disrespectful to the victims by some, right? Yet you're so defensive and triggered by the theory that Kohberger is guilty? That doesn't add up, and it won't add up with individuals who aren't genuine. We respond with fury, of course. Quote, now, see, this is what concerns the chaos. We literally just broke down why it would be Kohberger. But wait, so you agree that Xana is heard being attacked? Okay, now, do you hear anyone else in that home being attacked? That's one question for context. Would you assume with high probability that the vehicle that had been driving in that neighborhood is involved in her death? Another one, since you agree that you hear Xana, so obviously you also heard that male in the home attacking her. Would you assume that this male is the driver of that vehicle? Okay, now think, Medusa. Is it likely that this one man murdered 4 housemates that night, or somehow this male just murdered Xana and sped away? The audio changed a lot for the chaos. This was not released until approximately 6 or 7 months ago. It was sealed early on in the investigation. Honestly, when we heard it soon after they released it, we started to question if Kohberger was guilty then. This is not some pro-Kohberger channel. Just because the chaos felt he was framed does not mean it's impossible that he's guilty. You all are having a problem making that discernment." Unquote. Now they responded not to any of what the chaos pointed out. Look what their response was. Quote, "Where are all the comments to the latest video you released? I'm the only one?" Unquote. They never addressed anything we pointed out, no desire to have an intellectual conversation about the case. So what we have here are grifters and bots. It's simple. Didn't we ask important questions here? Of course. Now let's start from the beginning. The grifter admitted to hearing Xana being attacked. If you admit to hearing Xana being attacked, you do realize that you're going to have to explain why is there one male attacking Xana, and why aren't any of the other housemates heard being attacked, including Ethan if he wasn't asleep. This the problem. You can't take those words back, Medusa. You admitted to hearing Xana screaming and fighting for her life. Now, would you confirm this was heard to those who claim they never heard it? But I noticed Medusa never mentioned anything about the male that's attacking Xana, though, you see? Obviously, that's a killer, right? Shouldn't you be trying to figure out who this could be? I don't know, based on the tone of voice, the vehicle they were driving? You know, investigator stuff, right? That is Kohberger's voice. How do we know? We don't know. It's a wild hunch. It's awkward sounding, almost a nervous sounding male, as he thought, oops, we've just confirmed it was a lone killer. Yep. Are you ready, Medusa? Is everyone out there ready? Is the mob of pro-Kohberger grifters ready for this? You better buckle your seatbelts because this is devastating. The male is heard initially trying to keep Xana quiet. This is why he says, quote, "It's okay, I'm here to help you," thinking that Xana would not see him as a threat. She, of course, wasn't convinced, so he attacked her. We heard the attack, right? We hear her fall to the ground and crying. Man, that fucking hurt our hearts to hear her on the ground crying. And this is why we know Ethan couldn't have been awake, because that's his girl. Ethan would die protecting her. He would literally become enraged. And trust me, we would hear an all-out brawl in that house. But it's just Xana we hear. She was all alone against the lone killer. Now, let's get to the point here. Since this man is pleading with Xana to be quiet, and it's okay, I'm here to help you, and he leaves soon after attacking her, by just using your common fucking sense, doesn't this mean this man was somewhere else before interacting with Xana? Again, if you listen closely, Xana has spotted this man and tries to run away. He is trying to keep her quiet. This means the man has come from another location. I don't know, sneaking down the stairs? From the 3rd floor after murdering Kaylee and Madison? Are you seeing the truth now? Okay, let's say you still don't believe this is Kohberger, but you would have to accept that this was one man who came into that home, murdered the girls upstairs, then the other 2 victims on the 2nd floor, and proceeds to speed off around 4:20 a.m. It's an unknown male who has just murdered 4 housemates within a 5-minute window. I'm gonna leave it here. Oh, and the man was driving a white vehicle also, just to, throw that in there.
I think the problem here is many have gotten caught in the vortex, also known as the rabbit hole. This rabbit hole takes information such as what people post on Reddit and Facebook, and that becomes the foundation of how they view the case. Oh, this poster claimed that this happened and that happened, and you never actually look into the case yourselves. You just go with what sounds logical and never look back. It's not necessarily a problem if you're merely someone who isn't publicly commentating or investigating the case, but investigators in particular have to go about things as investigators, meaning the outside noise is not the focus, the inside is the focus. Or back to square one, where where the chaos started in the investigation, inside the home. And now we're back examining audio from inside the home to determine what evidence is being provided. The Medusa individual admitted that they heard Xana screaming. Now, this is the problem we were pointing out in the last episode, and it makes me wonder if they're even paying attention, because they wouldn't ask the questions they do if they paid attention. We broke it down in that episode. My colleague just broke it down. And here I am breaking it down one more time. Wait, let's use the security camera footage as a reference. Maybe this will help them pay attention more, I guess. Okay, as we see here, a white vehicle enters the neighborhood at 3:30 a.m. Keep in mind, it has gradually gotten quiet in the neighborhood. All of that screaming, hooting, and hollering has died down, indicating most residents are asleep or about to go to sleep. And if you think about this, it doesn't align with the narrative that the murders, or even attacks, occurred in that 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. time frame, right? Because there would definitely be some activity around this time, because the very individuals who are next door hooting and hollering, screams being heard and all, they wouldn't be able to sleep. They are aware that those housemates have been attacked or even murdered. Keep in mind, if many claim that the screams were an indication that there were murders taking place, then you have those next door neighbors apparently aware of it because they're responding to or reacting to the screams they're hearing. Just a bit of context there. The chaos listened to those screams just like everyone else, and what we concluded was a bunch of drunk college kids horsing around. Everything seems more suspicious than it is under a microscope. Now, the vehicle makes a left onto Taylor and heads down Walenta Drive. So, in this area, as someone pointed out, they can literally see the home from Walenta Drive. They can see when the lights turn off, they can see when the DoorDash delivery was made, who picked it up, did they turn the kitchen light off, etc. The next time the vehicle is spotted is around 3:38 a.m. Again, it departs, turning left on Taylor, onto Walenta Drive. So, can everyone admit that this vehicle is clearly anticipating something, trying to wait for something? Of course. Okay. Then we have Molly coming at 3:46 a.m. Now we know her accounts. We felt they were suspicious. We felt that she was sent to confirm that the housemates were dealt with and relay that message on to Bonnie and Clyde. Yeah, but it appears she was just doing her job. She's not perfect, might have a drug addiction, heck, might even be associated with Bonnie and Clyde, but based on this footage, we have to focus on the white vehicle because this is the killer. Now here's what we gathered. The white vehicle is parked somewhere on Walenta Drive, up the hill, looking directly at the neighborhood and the home. The killer saw Molly's vehicle enter, while he saw a vehicle enter. When he saw a vehicle leave at 3:53 a.m., he thought that was the same vehicle from that distance. See, he's keeping an eye on activity in the neighborhood. So he assumed that the overall setting in the neighborhood is very quiet enough for him to slip into the home. The vehicle comes back at 3:56 a.m., then departs again around 3:58 a.m., and this is when Molly saw him driving by. Of course, her account seemed fishy, as she said there was a female on the third floor peeking out of the window and not the second floor. She claimed the female would duck and hide when they saw each other. That's odd. And she also described the female as having long, dark brown hair, which fits Xana's description because everyone else had blonde and blondish color hair. But Xana's bedroom obviously wasn't on the third floor. Maybe she went up to the third floor to get a better field of view. Who knows? That's somewhat of a semantic argument. Surely those criticizing the chaos will challenge us on it. Sure, why not? But back to the footage. Molly delivers the DoorDash and departs around 4 a.m. Keep in mind, the white vehicle is sitting on Walenta Drive, literally watching every single action in that neighborhood. They wait till that vehicle departs and comes back to the neighborhood around 4:05 a.m., and this is when it decides to take action. Now, if you're paying attention, this vehicle has been watching the neighborhood from Walenta Drive and keeping track of all traffic coming in and out of the neighborhood from that viewpoint. And one thing specifically they made a note of is that a female from the target's home has just come to those sliding doors and picked up an order. The vehicle comes and checks the home out, sees there's activity in the kitchen more than likely, so this time they made the 3-point turn and stays in the neighborhood this time because it appears there's no more activity in the neighborhood. And at 4:15 a.m., we hear the vehicle car door close, which is proof that the individual has gotten out of their vehicle and is heading to the home. Now, before we get into that segment, did you count how many times the vehicle had been in the neighborhood? 4 times. The vehicle has been lurking in this neighborhood for over 30 minutes, watching, waiting, and finally, at 4:05 a.m., they decide it's time to execute the plan. Now, it is at 4:17 a.m. when Murphy starts to bark, which means this person is already in the home, and he would more than likely be upstairs to get Murphy's attention. And it's possible that Murphy didn't detect him initially. That's possible. Who knows? Murphy could have been asleep prior, could have been dozing off. The point here is that the man is more than likely upstairs, and that is important to this examination. We have to assume that within that 4:15 to 4:16 a.m. timeframe is when Madison and Kaylee were murdered. Oh, that's a minute or so. It's impossible to murder them that fast. Is it? Are you sure? Someone could be stabbed to death in about 10 seconds, right? So let's be honest here. And I think we all kind of got caught up in that mind state thinking it would take far longer than a few minutes. But in reality, it varies. The chaos only felt it would be a bit longer due to the circumstance of screaming, the dog barking, everyone being alerted of one of the housemates being attacked. Yeah, that would obviously make things difficult for a lone killer to accomplish the task, and would more than likely end up in a fight for his life with Ethan in the home along with a few more housemates to help out. Someone calls Hunter and Emily over, Jack might have been alerted, other frat members, and before you know it, the lone killer is trying to get to his vehicle and get out of there. But without the screaming, which we don't hear in that audio, it increases the chances of a lone killer picking those housemates off one by one because there isn't an alarm going off. And unfortunately, the only one who did set off the alarm was the next to be murdered and wasn't capable of reaching her protector in her bedroom. You know, listening to the context clues of that interaction, Xana literally was spooked by this man, yet he was talking to her, trying to convince her he's there to help, and she continued trying to get her housemate's attention. It creates a scenario where Xana was completely horrified and just kept trying to escape. And that fucking male, speaking to her, there's a small segment at the end when she has been basically dealt with, where we hear this fucker talking to Xana in a twisted, condescending manner. We can't tell exactly what he said, but the tone of his voice is consequential in nature. Like, look at you now, bitch, I told you to shut up. Oh my fucking, I'm done. That's it. Episode over.
No, wait. Let's not end just yet. I understand your frustration, but let's make sure we do our supporters a solid by concluding the episode properly. Kohberger had his cell phone turned off. In retrospect, it doesn't make much sense now, considering it's not like he was one of the cool guys on campus or a ladies' man, nor in his community. So surely he wasn't worried about being hassled by friends and family neither, to be honest. So this leaves only two options. Just wanted to feel like you're unplugging from the Matrix, or you knew that your phone would stop communicating with the cell towers. Which one seems likely here? Both, but the second option was the primary motive. Quite ironic that Kohberger's phone was off for about 2 hours, the time frame in which the murders occurred. And then, sometime later, after he's long gone from Moscow, it's back online.
Let me ask all of you a question. If you were going to murder someone, would you have your phone on or would you turn it off? Just a question. After the murders were committed, of course, you would turn the phone back on. I mean, there's no need to keep it off now, right? The phone went offline around 2:47 a.m., then came back online around 4:48 a.m. Let's see here, 2:47 a.m. to 3:47 a.m. There's a white vehicle snooping around in the neighborhood within this time frame, right? 3:47 a.m. to 4:47 a.m., the white vehicle parks alongside the victim's home. We hear the car door shut. Moments later, we hear a female being murdered in the home, along with a lone male. Then we hear the car door shut again and spot the white vehicle speeding out of the neighborhood. It was 4:17 a.m. when we hear the murder take place. Then 4:20 a.m. when we see the vehicle haul ass out of the neighborhood. Now keep in mind, Kohberger's phone is still offline at this moment. Then at 4:48 a.m. it comes back online. Now if this would be Kohberger, where do you think he would be when he decided to come back online? Well, his phone pings near Blaine and Highway 95, not Blaine Street in Moscow. Oh no, my friends, Blaine, Idaho. Now, why would his phone be pinging so far into another state if he was southwest of Moscow during the time of the murders? The phone would not ping that far east. Nope. Unless Kohberger was traveling south through Blaine, Idaho on Highway 95 heading towards the southern state line. The phone pings near Genesee, Idaho, then Uniontown, Washington. If you're paying attention here, this is a speeding vehicle, the way it's pinging in nearby cities within a short span of time. Now, if the chaos recalls, there was also a speeding vehicle leaving the scene of a crime about 20 minutes prior. And finally, the phone pings in Pullman. Ah yes, home at last. Had quite the adventurous drive at night, eh, Kohberger? And this is why Cy Ray couldn't help Kohberger, because he can't explain how his phone would ping that far into Idaho, which proves that Kohberger was not only in the state of Idaho, but if you follow the path in reverse based on the pings, Kohberger would be traveling from the northern region in the state of Idaho, which, well, has him leaving the city of Moscow. As the saying goes, criminals will always leave behind a trail. Kohberger should have waited till he was out of the state of Idaho to turn his phone back on, not just out of the city of Moscow. But the fleeting feeling, the feeling of accomplishing his mission, thinking he wasn't seen, he wasn't chased, driving all alone on the dark and quiet highways. I got away with it. I didn't leave any evidence behind, no footprints, no blood. Yeah, it's okay to turn my phone back on. While still speeding on the highway in the state you just murdered, all of the serial killers are thinking to themselves, rookie mistake, my friend, rookie mistake.
There's only so many coinkydinks you can have before the walls start closing in. Everything is ironically being flipped back onto Kohberger now, when these elements were considered coincidental due to the suspicions surrounding the case. But again, that was because we did not have that audio, and that lone male in the home who drove that white vehicle and got the hell out of Dodge, it's not even the DNA on the knife sheath. Heck, it's not necessarily the vehicle, and to be honest, it's not the lack of an alibi. It's that male's voice in the home, my friends. You take Kohberger's quiet and odd disposition and just place it with that male's voice, it fits. I'm sorry, but it does. And then you just take that audio with the vehicle and you go backwards. Let's look at the map once more so we bring this all the way back to the security footage. On a side note, during the search warrant at the Kohbergers, apparently he made a break for it as officers forcefully entered the home. Why is he trying to make a break for it? Oh, wait, you're breaking because you knew why they were there. Quote, Kohberger made a break for it as police forcefully entered and tried to get downstairs, headed for his room in the basement, he said. Included on a search warrant list of the dozens of items police seized from the Kohberger home were a Glock handgun, 2 items identified as a green leafy substance, and a book with underlining on page 118. Law enforcement found a book by Susan Jeffers, a psychologist, titled Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Quote, the book, Gilbertson said, was titled Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers, a self-help book about techniques for turning anger and indecision into action. Gilbertson didn't know what had been underlined, but he said it remains in police evidence. Kohberger's disposition during their interview was calm and relaxed, Payne told reporters. The suspect didn't ask why he was there until deep into their conversation, Gilbertson said. The suspect showed no signs of anger, concern, or the appearance of being rattled. He has no emotions, my friends. It's typical of a sociopath. Now, why are we bad-mouthing Kohberger when we were just suggesting he was framed for the murders, something that we didn't accept as truth before because of the suspicions surrounding the investigation and all the other elements we've broke down? It's something called a preponderance of evidence, my friends. This is what finally broke Kohberger. Wow, it's kind of eerie how he went from being framed to being blamed in a blink of an eye. They go on to say that page 118 of the book was underlined. We did a bit of digging just to see what was underlined. Well, what do we have here? Page 118 of the book. There's a question by Kohberger. He's asking Susan this, by the way. Quote, what role does the subconscious mind play in our experiences of power and abundance? Susan answers, the subconscious mind acts upon the thoughts and beliefs relayed by the conscious mind. Positive affirmations and the guidance from the higher self can lead to empowering experiences and attract positive situations, whereas negative beliefs can result in experiences of weakness and despair. Unquote. Kohberger had mental issues, and he may have tried to get help on his own, but without a support system, you end up being consumed by what? The very subconscious thoughts. It's simply he was consumed by darkness. He took to the likes of Charles Manson. He was infatuated with the minds of those individuals. And that is a very dark place if you're not mentally stable yourself, you understand? So you end up trying to live out a self-manufactured legacy of those individuals you were infatuated with. Kohberger transmutated a positive message of feeling fear and doing it anyway to feeling the fear of attempting his first murder and do it anyway. The rush, the feeling of freedom to do it anyway, yearning for that same adrenaline rush that his role models experienced in taking innocent lives away. Oh yes, the chaos knows a little about psychology. He's where he needs to be, my friends, and he's lucky he didn't receive the death penalty. Oh, that's cruel. What about the cruelty of taking those college students away from their families, their friends, huh? We're not wishing death on Kohberger, but the consequence of life do not abide by the human's morality. That's a line from the Chaos's book. Might want to read it. Yeah, we're being a bit snarky.
Let's deal with the alleged path. Now, Cy Ray claimed that the state basically didn't disclose all of the cell phone data, nor did they accurately comprehend the data itself. But in his testimony during the hearing, along with Ann Taylor, nobody confirmed that Kohberger was southwest of Moscow during the time frame of the murders. Yes, he traveled southwest of Moscow, but that only creates a mystery of where he went once he traveled southwest. You see? A defendant has been charged with a crime, and their whereabouts are being claimed to be at the crime scene. If the defense can't provide evidence that the defendant wasn't at the crime scene, how can the defense attorney challenge the prosecution's alleged evidence against the defendant? They can't. And this was the predicament Ann Taylor was facing, calling on an expert in cell phone data analysis who can't physically place the defendant in a location away from the crime scene. He couldn't do it because they themselves didn't know where the defendant was because he never provided an actual alibi. His alibi was basically, I was driving late at night and there were witness accounts of this. But this is not an actual alibi. It's a gray area that can't be pinpointed or verified unless there is documented proof, again, such as photos at the park or out hiking, camping, out in the wilderness, during the time frame the alleged vehicle enters the neighborhood. If you can't, I repeat, if you can't provide any documented proof that contradicts the surveillance footage alleged to be your vehicle, you are considered the primary suspect. A judge would rule this so-called alibi as rubbish because there is no proof contrary to the alleged location. You know, we all thought Bill Thompson was full of shit, he might be anyway, and we thought the judges were conspiring against Taylor and Kohberger, but maybe they were just so angry that this man is sitting in this courtroom trying to figure out a way to avoid being charged for the crimes he committed. I would be angry too, staring at a man who murdered 4 college students and attempts to go on about his day grocery shopping later that day like he didn't just ruin many lives. So what do you have here? The prosecution is claiming the defendant's vehicle is captured by surveillance, snooping in and out of the neighborhood before parking and going inside to murder those housemates. They have a trace of his DNA discovered on a knife sheath in one of the victim's bedroom. He leaves his apartment around 2:47 a.m. and then stops reporting a network connection. And this, my friends, is the gray area of where the defendant would be. Keep in mind, he has a white vehicle, which has been identified as the vehicle spotted in surveillance. So an uphill battle just became damn near impossible to climb because you're not providing an alibi. Your alibi of claiming to just be out driving around is contesting the state's evidence of your DNA discovered on a knife sheath, which they have purchase history of you purchasing a K-bar knife and a sharpener. You're driving a white vehicle, the same vehicle spotted in surveillance. Some have stated, well, it's the state with the burden of proof, not the defense. Oh yeah, we're way past that phase. Yeah, you're talking about what's going on in the court. We're not in the courtroom. We're doing our own investigation. So we're focusing on the defendant and his activity that night. Cy Ray claims he was southwest of Moscow, but his phone goes offline. Now, if he's just driving around in the middle of the night, then he must have crossed state lines for his phone to ping all the way in Blaine, Idaho, right? And it comes back online about 20 minutes after a vehicle is spotted speeding out of the neighborhood. The person driving that vehicle is the killer. Can we all agree with that, at least? A man comes into the home and murders someone. And since Kohberger's whereabouts were never... Okay, let's stop this. You can't get out of that vice grip of evidence. You're guilty, my guy, unless you can prove your DNA was planted in that home. Now, as we see here, this is the trajectory of where Kohberger would have been traveling, despite the claim he was just driving out at night. You see the problem? And this is why Cy Ray's testimony actually hurt Kohberger. It didn't help him. As we see, there are a few paths to take. Crossing the southern state line, remember, we said he would travel south and cross state lines there to avoid the traffic cameras heading east up north, crossing state lines into Moscow. Slick, but not slick enough. Kohberger needed more WD-40. Now, it takes about 46 minutes to go from Pullman to Uniontown, Washington, crossing state lines into Moscow, traveling north on Thorn Creek Road. We went over this. Hopefully everyone is paying attention. Thorn Creek Road connects to Highway 95, and before you know it, you're in the neighborhood around, let's see here, 2:47 a.m. is when his phone disconnects from the network. Takes approximately 46 minutes to reach the neighborhood, but based on how he flew out of the neighborhood, we can shave off 10 to 15 minutes of travel time. It wouldn't matter because it's all relatively the same time, but considering his ambition, he would arrive in that area around 3:10 to 3:15 a.m., and since he already was in the area when he arrives at 3:30 a.m. in the neighborhood, it rounds out about the same. Now, let's take the trip with him, shall we?
Well, it's quite simple, my friends. He arrives in the neighborhood around 3:30 a.m. Now it appears the vehicle enters the neighborhood from Taylor Avenue, which means the projected path previously is further east. There's Indian Hills Drive, that's further east, which the state claims he was spotted by a residential camera. Traveling north from 95 to be spotted on Indian Hills, Kohberger heads down Southview Avenue, which turns into Alice Street, then onto Indian Hills Drive, which connects to Steiner, so on and so forth, heading west onto Taylor Avenue. Now, the problem the defense had with this surveillance is it is in fact a white Hyundai Elantra traveling at night captured on surveillance. But here's the thing. There's a quicker route to the victim's home, and it's not traveling northeast on 270. Old Pullman Road, it just sounds like a road someone like Kohberger was travel on. Quiet, discreet, especially in the middle of the night, you have like fucking 1% traffic. Yeah, perfect path to avoid any delays. In this path, it's about 25 minutes to the home. Interesting enough, when the vehicle arrives in the neighborhood around 3:30 a.m., we don't see it traveling from Walenta Drive, so it had to have come from Taylor Avenue. But this doesn't mean it traveled main streets to get there. Like we see here, Old Pullman Road gets you there in about 25 minutes, and on such a road with Kohberger's ambition, he may have gotten there a little bit faster. Remember the white vehicle passing on Taylor Avenue heading west in the Banfield body cam? Yep, that could have been Kohberger. We tracked that vehicle and we didn't see it in the neighborhood. We didn't see it traveling west on Walenta Drive, but its speed indicated it did travel down Walenta Drive. Who knows, it could have parked somewhere near and watched Moscow PD deal with the drunk kids. In fact, maybe we should look into that. Where did that vehicle end up going during that time frame? Again, the light bulb at night sticks out like a sore thumb. The surveillance footage is displaying the very action that Kohberger's alibi claims, driving at night. Well, seems he was driving around at night in Moscow. Yeah, it's pretty much irrefutable when you break it down. The vehicle arrives around 3:30 a.m. and is literally monitoring the victim's home and the neighborhood. All of the timestamps are displayed here, showing the killer's real-time stalking of that home. And yes, this is stalking in real time. Once the coast was clear to settle in, the vehicle parks alongside the victim's home around 4:07 a.m. to 4:15 a.m. The silent time frame between 4:07 a.m. to 4:15 a.m. is unknown of what the killer was doing, but we do know that at 4:15 a.m. we hear the car door shuts, indicating the killer has gotten out of the vehicle and is heading to the home. A few minutes later, we hear Murphy barking, which was around 4:16 a.m. and some change. Some believe it's impossible to attack within this time frame, but the physical evidence combined with the audio indicates that it's not that difficult to do. Honestly, it doesn't take 5 minutes to stab someone to death, unless there is a fierce struggle. But if the victims are asleep, and even if they're not asleep, they can be murdered within 10 to 30 seconds with multiple stab wounds. So it's not far-fetched that a killer can enter that home and leave out less than 10 minutes after murdering 4 housemates. We hear the man inside the home attacking a female. It's evidence of the murders taking place. Out of all the audio from Linda Lane, the screaming and yelling from the security camera hours prior, none of it is more revealing than the 4:17 a.m. time frame. We hear the car door shut around 4:19 a.m. The vehicle speeds away, perhaps accelerating at 60 miles per hour, then heads west onto Walenta Drive, then onto Ridge Road. The reason they don't have surveillance of the vehicle traveling northwest on Highway 8 departing is because the vehicle didn't travel this direction. It departed the same way it arrived, southwest of Moscow. Now, after this analysis, can everyone accept the facts? Here are the facts. Fact number 1. There is a white vehicle driving in the neighborhood during the time frame the murders occurred. Fact number 2. The vehicle is spotted frequently entering and exiting the neighborhood using Walenta Drive as a stakeout point. Fact number 3. The vehicle then enters the neighborhood around 4:05 a.m. and does not leave again. Fact number 4. The vehicle then parks as we hear the car door shut at 4:15 a.m.
Fact number 5.
There is a murder that takes place at 4:17 a.m. in the 1122 King Road residence. Fact number 6. There is a single male heard in that home, not multiple killers. Fact number 7. The car door shuts at 4:19 a.m. The male has just committed a murder and now leaves the home. Fact number 8. The vehicle is frantically speeding away from the neighborhood, more proof that they have just committed the crime. Fact number 9. The vehicle departs west onto Walenta Drive, traveling at a high rate of speed. A white vehicle is spotted in this area before, during, and after the murders occurred, all suggesting it's the same male in the home. Now, all of this, what do you know for sure? A fact, not speculation, but the facts. A single man was driving around in that neighborhood, watching the victim's home. A single man clearly had a motive. A single man is the lone killer, something we all never thought could be possible. This single man is suspect number 1. We can just stop right there and let these facts sort itself out, because unless there is another man driving a white Hyundai Elantra who had been stalking those housemates, clearly, and drives out of town after committing the murders, well, the person who was arrested and charged for the crime is the guy, my friends. Everything else is speculation, semantics, or isn't as relevant as the physical evidence of that one man committing the crime that night. If there are other issues that needed to be investigated, yeah, Moscow PD and the FBI should have done a better job of it. But what is the primary focus for any law enforcement agency, or in the chaos's perspective, an investigator's primary focus, is who was responsible for those murders. All the trails lead to Brian Kohberger. Well, hopefully we can have more honest conversations about this. It doesn't change anything for the chaos, just another day of exposing the truth. This is the Chaos Sector.